pulling out from these independent little specks using ultrasound. Each one is a little tiny ultrasound transceiver talking to a base station. And this base station can talk to a number of them. This would be completely untethered, completely embedded, recording what's going on in the brain and sending it out, sort of fairy dust at the top of your cortex, beaming out data to a collector, and then that gets sent out to the outside of the skull. So I'm going to wrap up by saying we're very excited by this. This is the sort of the mental output of
Feeling slow? How about a brain upgrade? Look around at the creatures of Earth. A lot of them have some amazing abilities, like the Taurus scarab dung beetle. Sure, it's not very glamorous, but it can pull 1,140 times its own weight. That's like a 15-pound French bulldog pulling a 9-ton Tyrannosaurus Rex. So, why can't we do that? Well, when it comes to physical strength, that just wasn't the main focus of the human genome. We went all in on our brains. Take a look back 2 million years at our hominid ancestor, Homo habilis. Homo habilis had a brain case volume of about 600 cubic centimeters. Today, the average person has between 1,200 and 1,300 cubic centimeters. That's more than twice the volume. And our brains only take up 2% of our body weight, but they require 20% of our body resting energy. Other creatures look at us like we're this guy. Now, it's important to remember, humans are not necessarily at the end of their evolutionary path. So, is there some way we could boost our intelligence within our own lifetimes? Well, lots of studies show that a change in lifestyle can help boost brain power. For example, aerobic exercise promotes stem cell growth in the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain concerned with, memory. Then there could be improvements in nutrition that help our brain power. Best evidence for this is when the United States introduced iodized salt and saw the average IQ increase by 3.5 points. Now you may have guessed that these changes mean modest improvements in our intelligence. So is there any way we could turn it up to 11? Well, one way is to look at something that is pretty counterintuitive, and that is brain damage. I'm talking about an extremely rare and highly controversial condition called acquired savant syndrome. Now, this happens as a result to a head injury or a neurodegenerative disease, and what happens is the person suddenly discovers an ability to do something incredible like sculpture or play music. So how did they get that ability? Some scientists think that we have locked gates in our brains that hold back our abilities, and that the injury or condition has unlocked those gates and allowed the people who have acquired savant syndrome to do these things. Maybe by using techniques like fMRI, we could learn more about the condition and perhaps in the future even learn ways to unlock those gates without actually causing brain damage. Now it's time to talk about brain implants. You see, computers and brains do similar things, but they go about it in a very different way. So if we can get brains and computers to communicate more easily, we could see a quantum leap in human intelligence. And we've already made some progress. Paralysis patients with brain implants have been able to control robotic prostheses. And get this, in 2012, researchers with USC and Wake Forest made a brain implant for the cerebral cortex of rhesus monkeys. They taught the monkeys how to play a picture-matching puzzle game.
Then they gave the monkeys drugs that diminished their performance.
They then activated the implants. The implants stimulated the part of the monkey's brain that was activated whenever it made a correct choice. And they saw that the lost mental acuity was regained. Now granted, most of this research is all about recapturing brain function that's been lost. It's not about amplifying what we already have. But in the future, we could see this technology boosting our intelligence and giving us new choices. Like, you want to be a great scientist? Well, let's just turn down the part of the brain that's in charge of confirmation bias. Or you just want to be a better human being? Let's boost that altruistic behavior.
With their game faces on, the competitors lift their drones off the gym floor and fly down a track, all without a joystick or handheld controller.
Now we're here today for the world's first brain drone race.
Engineering students at the University of Florida in Gainesville compete in a mind control competition using drones, hoping to bring brain-computer interface, or BCI, to the masses.
A race like this first gets the knowledge out. If you ask a lot of people about a brain-computer interface, they say they have no idea.
This headset is monitoring the electrical signals in my brain, allowing me to transfer them remotely to this drone. But this type of technology has been studied for decades and is helping paralysis patients regain the use of their limbs.
I had a motorcycle accident.
At the age of 16, Richard Tercy crashed his motorcycle into a tree.
And I had a hangman fracture, so that left me paralyzed.
Unable to move from the neck down, Tercy began therapy. Using another type of mind control technology, doctors were able to pinpoint where the brain signals got stopped due to spinal cord damage. Tercy was able to regain limited movement in his arms and legs after 3 years.
I still feel hope that maybe a chance he can run again, walk again.
More recently in Ohio, doctors using BCI and a chip implant were able to help a paralyzed man move his hand again.
Kind of like it was before I had my injury, where I just think about what I want to do, and now I can do it.
Just imagining the cube being pushed back into the screen.
While implanted devices are more powerful, non-invasive brainwave readers are becoming popular and costs are starting to come down. The headsets in the Florida competition cost $500 each.
In order to expand this to the general public, we actually have to embrace these consumer-grade devices and actually push them to the limit.
As brainwave technology moves outside research labs, these drone races show the possibilities are just taking off. Josh Raploga, The Associated Press, Gainesville.
With the DSX, we want it to be the window to the future.
What we're trying to do is change the prosthetics industry so we can offer affordable, functional, and beautiful prosthetic devices to amputees.
I'm proud of being one-handed. It doesn't make me feel any different. But wearing this, instead of having people come up to me or give me like the sincere look of, oh, you've lost your arm, they go, oh wow, this is fantastic. And I just like to see people have a smile on their face about it. That's what it's all about for me. Because we're heavily promoting this kind of technology, some people really think like we were producing, augmented arms. And, some fans or some moms and so on were asking, where can I buy your arm? And unfortunately, we have to say, we're not building any arms, we're just a video game company. But that triggers, the thing where we say, we should do something.
It was a really natural fit when they got in touch with us. We were almost expecting it at some point, and we formed this idea to try and turn Adam Jensen's arm into a real-life bionic limb.
I was actually only born with my left hand, so I've never seen any different, and I've always wanted to have like a robotic hand. I've never said I wanted two hands, just a robotic one, just to feel more cyborg, because it's just so much cooler, especially being into sci-fi and comics and stuff.
I developed the first bionic hand when I was 17, just tinkering in my bedroom at my parents' house when I was younger. So when I went to university a few years later, I wanted to take the project a little bit further and found that bionic hands existed for amputees to wear, but they were extremely expensive. And so I used that angle as an excuse to be allowed to create a bionic hand for my final year project at university. And then after university was when I co-founded Open Bionics, and we began working on the same problem with a more kind of definitive goal of being able to offer these bionic hands to people at a really affordable price.
So this is a custom built one for myself. We use sensors in the top and bottom of my arm. So if I tense my bottom muscles, it will close. And if I loosen up but tense upwards slightly, it will open.
We have a fantastic art director. His name is Jonathan Jack Beltet. This guy is a visionary. He's completely crazy. And the way we wanted to depict, a future world was that human augmentations couldn't be like just medical device. We wanted it to be super rewarding. People are wearing this kind of prosthesis in a fashionable way. For Deus Ex, we never wanted to do some gimmicky big robot's hand and so on. We wanted something to touch upon, the high fashion, very refined design, something that looks very slick and very, you could be very proud to wear it.
And then you can change all the functions like that. Kind of cool.
At this point, we've made a semi-functional prototype. So we've made one that's functional and looks similar to Adam Jensen's hand. The next steps for us will be perfecting the functionality of it so that it works really nicely and it's very good at grasping objects. And then making the finish really nice so that it looks the part as well. The design files that we're working on in this project will be open source as well, so people will be able to download them. If they have a 3D printer, they'll be able to make themselves an Adam Jensen arm that will be functional and they'll be able to use it.
We don't want to cut this technology, this accessibility to people who have their both hands and so on. So we partnered with Intel with their RealSense division and Razer with their Stargazer division also.
Multiple points on the hand in motion is captured in real time. The result is a one-to-one mirroring between the user's hand and the bionic hand.
We want to show limb-different people that the products and devices that they're seeing in science fiction, in gaming and in movies can become reality and can become reality very soon.
It's mind-blowing for a lot of people, but I cannot wait for the future of this.
Everything we're doing is somehow a new step forward. We now defining the future.
Out of all the cool gadgets coming out this year, the most interesting has got to be Google's internet-connected eyewear, Google Glass. But aside from making you look a little strange and taking pictures as you recklessly spin people's kids around, what will Google Glass actually do for you? I'm Donald Bell, and in today's Top 5, I'll be counting down my list of the most useful ways that Google Glass might be worth the public humiliation. Starting things off at number 5, TV enhancement. A little screen to help make watch the big screen more fun. Now, Google doesn't show any couch potatoes in their promo videos, but you know it's gonna happen. You could call up player stats during a baseball game or look up an actor's IMDb page during Game of Thrones. On the downside, Google has a knack for putting ads on everything it makes. At number 4, biofeedback. You think the Nike Fuel Band is awesome, you just wait until you have a heads-up display of your heart rate, your calories burned, your steps taken, all of that stuff superimposed over your morning jog. Maybe it'll help you with your golf swing or your jump shot. Maybe it'll gently remind you that you've been sitting on your ass in front of your computer for 6 hours straight. Google Glass could make us better people. Coming in at number 3, face recognition. Now, Google hasn't announced this as an actual feature yet, and I understand that there is a huge privacy obliterating downside if they ever did, but wouldn't it be fun for like a minute? I mean, as someone who is really bad at remembering people's names, it would be like crutches for my brain. Oh, hey, how's it going, Dave? You know, maybe it would also tip you off there's someone at a party that you want to avoid, like an ex, or some creep wearing Google glasses. All right, now we're starting to get into the genuinely useful stuff. At number 2, instruction. Want to learn how to bake the perfect oatmeal cookie? Just pull up the step-by-step YouTube video on your eyeball. Need advice on changing a diaper? Hopefully not your diaper? Just get mom on a Google Hangout and show her a point of view streaming HD video of what a disastrous parent you are. Until we can upload skills directly into our brain matrix style, Google Glass might be the next best thing. But it also has the potential to be the final blow to any sense of personal space we have left. Before we get to the number 1 potential benefit of Google Glass, let's account for the negative side effects. Have you ever had a complete stranger come up to you and put a camera in your face? It's unsettling. And if Google Glass takes off like Google hopes, any notion of public anonymity will be gone. We will be the big brother we've always feared. And if you think smartphones have killed dinner table conversation, just wait until Facebook and Twitter are running constantly on everyone's eyeballs. It's enough to make you want to live off the grid and black out the windows in your solar-powered geodesic dome. You have every right to be ambivalent about this thing. But maybe it's all worth it for number 1, right? Navigation. Google Glass looks like the best tool ever invented for the directionally challenged. Whether you're in your car or on your bike or hiking around, you've got a permanent readout of where you are and where you want to go. It'll be great for tourists or just anyone trying to figure out their way out of an IKEA.
A record of the delightful piece they're going to play this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, 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 your attention, please. Your attention, please. Attention, please.
And now the moment we've been waiting for is here.
I have something to tell you. Can it be true? It must be true, no doubt, no doubt.
Life is going on as normally as ever.
But suddenly something seems to have happened. Suddenly something seems to have happened. Everybody seems to be staring in one direction. People seem to be frightened, even terrified. I want everybody to understand this.
I don't understand.
I don't understand.
There are a lot of things we don't understand. I don't understand.
We need answers from you. What did you expect to find? What did you expect to find?
Who's going to be our future?
It's your responsibility to do something about it.
Well, I have the key in my hand. All I have to find is the lock. The lock. The lock. The lock.
Now listen to me, all of you.
Startup has created an augmented reality headset and the software which powers it. It's aiming to revolutionize the way people work by layering additional data and intelligent computing tools on top of their normal vision.
Daiquiri is an augmented reality company that makes hardware and software products for the future of work.
Their flagship hardware product is this really cool kind of digital hard hat that you wear, and it has flip-down lenses, and it projects things on the environment you're working within. So if you're at a factory, it can project images on gauges and can read those and track those and feed them back. So it's kind of like a way to modernize what have been legacy industries in a very, very cool way.
Early in my career, I got a chance to work in the simulation industry and then ultimately did a lot of work with robotics and computer vision. And I saw all of these pieces come together for decades. In very expensive government facilities, I got a glimpse in the late 90s and early 2000s of what would be possible, but it cost literally hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. The aha moment was seeing the iPhone 4 get released in 2010. Now all of a sudden I had a multi-core processor in my pocket, and I knew that those technologies would now be possible in a mobile form. And that's when I dropped everything and started Daiquiri.
When the company began, it focused on creating software. The hope was that other players would quickly create hardware that Daiquiri could piggyback on, and that those devices would help to pique customers' curiosity and so demand in a market which didn't yet exist.
When Daiquiri started, there was no market for augmented reality, and definitely no market for augmented reality at work.
The biggest challenge for a company like this is, always going to be convincing people why they need it in the first place, especially when you don't have a working prototype that's already being used by somebody out there.
Marketing pure augmented reality is very difficult because you're marketing the idea of being able to communicate, but just that idea isn't enough. You have to explain how's it going to deliver value. We had to work pretty hard to just get people to understand the fundamental mechanics of the technology.
Every meeting we went into at that time, we had to explain to them what it was we were doing, what the industry was, what the potential was. They'd never heard of it before, never seen it before, and that was an uphill battle every time.
We had to build the tools, we had to build the awareness, and we had to build the market all at the same time.
Originally, they were mostly a software company, but that brings issues, right? The software is only good if there's actually devices out there that can run it.
And when we started Daiquiri, we were really optimistic that one of the big companies would come along and they'd make the device that we needed, and we could just write our software for it. We realized along the way that that's not going to happen. For us to have the device we needed, we had to get into the hardware business, and the things that we had learned about making augmented reality for phones and tablets could wrap up into a pretty sick product.
Google Glass is far and away the most well-known attempt to create an augmented reality product, and also the most public flop. Daiquiri is hoping to sidestep the concerns over privacy and fashion that ultimately torpedoed Glass by focusing on industrial applications instead.
I think a lot of the problems with companies that want to do augmented reality is what's the right application, right? A lot of times people immediately say it's got to be gaming or home entertainment or that kind of thing, and those are actually harder sells in a lot of cases because you have to worry about fashion, you have to worry about pricing. There are all these obstacles that get in the way, and that's assuming your product even works in the first place. What they've done by focusing on the industrial application is it takes a lot of those barriers away. The product can cost more. Everybody looks goofy in a hard hat, so fashion goes out the window. And it becomes more about making the case, can this make your work life better? Can this make your company more productive?
We realized the first place that augmented reality is really going to get to scale is in the enterprise, is in the industrial space. Because this is delivering on-site, in-context knowledge transfer, step-by-step work instructions, data visualization right where the decision-making is happening.
A field force engineer goes to service a gas turbine on a jet. They have to know maybe 600 different work instructions. This is a way to do knowledge transfer visually. So you can look at that gas turbine engine and the computer vision can understand what you're looking at, understand what needs to be done, and give you visual cues without language of what you need to do next.
When we met our first industrial customer, it was, hey, I have these fundamental challenges and I desperately need a solution to make things better. And this fits into that.
Oftentimes technologies come around that replace workers. They take jobs away. What this is expanding our senses, it's expanding our capabilities. It's enhancing our vision and transferring us the knowledge that we want in real time. And that can make a huge impact on someone's life.
Daiquiri has managed to convince a handful of big customers that its product is worth exploring. The question now is whether or not it can build that into a profitable business, and if it can continue to lead the field when massive players like Google, Microsoft, and Sony are all making aggressive bets on the augmented reality market.
We started 5 years ago on my living room couch. It took us 2 years to get to the massive facility that held 10 employees, and we thought we'd really made it and really come a long way. 5 years later, we've got 250 employees in 5 offices around the world, and are just starting now to know how much we don't know and how much we didn't know along the way.
Augmented reality is still in its nascent phase, and we're at the very tip of the iceberg. It's gotten so much bigger since we've started. I mean, we're at the point now where we don't have to explain to everyone that we meet, what is it? What does the technology do? Okay, let me physically show you, because people have heard of it, people have seen it. We're kind of past that point now, but you don't wake up in the morning and look around you and there's augmented reality everywhere. There is that critical path to getting there, and we're gonna get there.
Now that Daiquiri has kind of put that product out there, people can get their head around what it is. They've kind of crossed a major threshold, but what's next is how are they gonna iterate upon that? How they're gonna respond to the challenges and the things they learn when the product gets out there in the marketplace. They're gonna learn a ton of things they could not have even grasped before. And so whether they're gonna be able to pull it off ultimately, we'll have to wait and find out.
You know, I love this idea of radical openness, the free exchange of information, the free flow of ideas, creating spaces in which ideas can have sex, as Matt Ridley talks about. And this is huge because it turns out that ideas are just as real as the neurons they inhabit, as James Gleick tells us. You know, a new kingdom rises above the biosphere. Denizens of this kingdom are ideas, because ideas have retained some of the properties of organisms, it turns out. They leap from brain to brain. They compete for the limited resources of our attention. They have infectivity. They have spreading power. They are what Richard Dawkins calls the new replicators, born from the primordial soup of human culture. Their vector of transmission is language and electronic communication. And though ideas are not made of nucleic acid, they have achieved more evolutionary change, and at a rate that leaves the old gene panting far behind. You know, Ray Kurzweil says our ability to create virtual models in our heads, combined with our modest-looking thumbs, was sufficient to usher in a secondary force of evolution called technology. And it will continue until the entire universe is at our fingertips. This is unbelievable stuff. It speaks to the telescoping nature of evolutionary change. More change in the last 100 years than in the last billion years. Terence McKenna actually wrote that from the moment that human beings invented language, biological evolution essentially ceased, and evolution became a cultural epigenetic phenomenon. Now, we take in matter of low organization, we put it through our mental filters, and we extrude it in the form of space shuttles and iPhones. You know, the Imaginary Foundation tells us that what imagination does is it allows us to conceive of delightful future possibilities, pick the most amazing one, and pull the present forward to meet it. You know, imagine how impoverished this world would have been if we hadn't invented the technology of the oil painting in time for Van Gogh, or the technology of the musical instrument in time for Beethoven and Mozart to unfurl through it, you know, with the revolutions in biotechnology, nanotechnology, the free exchange of information is allowing us to conceive of radical new things. Freeman Dyson says, in the future, new generation of artists will be writing genomes with the fluency that Blake and Byron wrote verses. What is great in man, said Nietzsche, is that he is a bridge and not an end. You know, we're on a trajectory smack in the middle between the born and the made, wrote Kevin Kelly. And so radical openness, it's huge. It's a universe of possibility. It's gray infused by color. It's the invisible revealed. It's the mundane blown away by awe. We need to cultivate radical openness as a way of participating and accelerating evolution.